That's more than I can ask. For a 40-year-old man that has been studying and has been working and has been out there seeing how many many people are going through a very hard circumstances. So doing what you like and being paid for that is enough. But say that you want to be paid, and some of the movies they don't pay nothing.
Was that true with Before Night Falls, for instance?
Yeah, of course, but that's logical also. You are doing a movie in a time where the great Julian Schnabel, my dear friend, gave me his confidence, but everybody around was like, who's that guy? Why would you give a whole role, protagonism to this guy? Who's this guy? So there are certain things that are much more valuable than money, and what he did for me was amazingly valuable.
And what about this movie? I mean, Uxbal, we were just hearing from Alejandro that you were like two perfectionist neurotics who were never satisfied, and that
Let's party, no?
And it was very difficult, he said, at times, because you would go on to 40 takes,
yeah,
and it was painful.
Yeah.
So does that make you happy?
No, of course not. But you know, in the moment when you read the script and the moment you know Alejandro's work, and you read that script and you read that character, you know that's going to be a difficult journey, because what he's proposing to you, proposing to you, thank you, is a life experience rather than a job. This is not a movie about going to the set, deliver the lines, put some faces, go back home. This is like, you want to jump in the abyss with me or not? So that's why I read it like 3 or 4 times, and before I say yes, because okay, are you ready to do this, Javier? Because this is going to take you to a different place, a place within that you may have not been able to deal with. And I was, thank God, but I had to face different layers of myself in a different way, because the demand was so huge of the emotional level of the movie, and also the extension of the shooting. It was 5 months, 12, 14 hours per day, with a guy who likes to do 20 takes here, 20 takes there, 20 takes here. So one scene, like for example, I remember the scene where the doctor tells me that I have cancer. That was the second day of shooting. We shot that scene for a whole day, and I think he covered the scene from 4 or 5 angles. So I did the same scene, like I would say a good 100 times. I was broken, because also he wants to go to the bone, and I want to go to the bone also. So you just don't, as I said, deliver the line. You just want to be there. 100 times after, I said, I can't. I'm exhausted. And it's only the day 2. We have 5 months. So that's the crazy part of it.
Okay.
What was the greatest challenge of working with non-actors? Because a lot of the cast were not trained in any way.
The challenge is to be at their height. Height. Why? Because they are fresh. They don't. The actors, the Chinese, both of them are professional. But the Senegalese people, they are not professional. They are not actors. But they are talking about their things, their own things. They're talking about their own truth. And also like the kids, which is not their own truth, but they are playing the game like kids, but very openly and very emotionally, in a healthy way, and very pure. So when you see that, there's no room to pretend. You have to be there, present for them. So it's different that when you are just dealing with another, I don't know how to say, professional actor, that you are constructing something. No, this is like, you see Ige, the actress who plays the Senegalese, speaking about all these things that has so much meaning to her, and you have to surrender to that. There's no way to pretend. You just listen with your open heart, because you know it means a lot to her what she's saying.
We spoke to Alejandro about how important the setting was. Was it difficult sort of integrating yourself into that community? He said part of the reason he picked Spain was because he wanted to be able to speak in his own native language for once, not have 100 translators.
Because you're Spanish.
Yeah, and because you're Spanish.
No, I mean he worked hard. He was there I don't know how many months before shooting, and he did a lot of work on putting information together, meeting people, and going to the real places. And so once I got there, I was preparing the role for 3 months, and on the last month, I was in Barcelona with these people, going to their places, talking to them, and what is much more important, listening to them. And it's not difficult at all. They are dying to be welcome and be listened. I mean, it's the opposite. Is you feel that it's us, the ones that we live accommodated enough, the ones that don't allow them. It's not that they don't allow us. It's different, and that's why I think this movie is important, because they have a voice. And movies doesn't change the world, but sometimes, like in this case, can raise some questions for us to answer at home, and that's a lot.
Uxbal, your character, is not only terminally ill, but he talks to dead people. He's got a estranged wife who's bipolar, who abuses one of their 2 children terribly, and it involves the unhappy murder of 25 illegal aliens.
Action!
Yes, including women and children.
Yeah.
What do you think people are supposed to take when you talk about getting to the core, the truth of this character in this movie? What are people supposed to take from all of this pain and suffering that they're witnessing?
Okay, I think that's a great question, and what I think is, I would say that this movie is a tragedy. It's not a drama, it's a tragedy, like the Greek tragedies. In the Greek tragedies, the gods, the divine entities, will come into the play to remind the human beings how weak they are. And they will do that by throwing at them every kind of disaster that they can control with. So that human being has to be able to overcome by his strength, his fate, and at the end his surrendering, and knowing that he is not big enough to face a god. Here, there is no God. There are no gods. Death is the God who shows up at the very beginning and say, okay, I'm going to give you 3 months to realize who you are. And he puts this mirror in front of him. What will people take? Okay, when I see a person surrounded by the most horrible circumstances you can imagine, and I see that out of that, there's always room to bring empathy and compassion to himself, and forgiveness to himself and to the others, to a moment where he can really face the people that he has harmed and say, I'm sorry, and give the legacy to those kids of what is really important, which is taking care of each other, even if it's in a smaller way. For me, it's a big message. Being that small is a huge message. But he has to be surrounded by all these horrible circumstances to realize how difficult it is to get there, like in the tragedies. I think it's a right for the viewer to some place where he has to face something in him that has to be loose, which is about surrendering to the need of being open to each other and hugging each other. Everybody that watch this movie, they run home to hug their families and their kids and their. Well, that's a great thing.
Okay, yeah.
I prefer this than a movie where everybody's brain is blowing up by explosions. I think that message is wrong. This one is much more right.
Javier, how do you deal with the emotional distress that this movie may cause you about, having to
How do you
shoot in
recover
just
after
5 months?
There's no way to deal with that. It happens. This is by far the heaviest role I've done in my life. I don't know if I will ever do something like this. Why? Because it's what happened?
Light is coming.
Okay, there was no light before. There was no light before.
There was light, but it just got brighter for some reason.
The illuminating.
That's God.
Yes.
That's God. Okay, not sorry.
Never say never.
You were saying I can never do this again, and it's saying there is hope for the future.
Exactly. But there is no way you can deal with the consequences of being in that state of mind and heart for 5 months. It's a journey, and that's our job. But our job is to know how to get in there, but also how to get out of there.